So when your best friend says you need to have a disclaimer in the beginning of your podcast because the lawyer in her is screaming, you do it. Here's my disclaimer. I am not a doctor. I am not a therapist. I am not even an expert. I am you. I am bringing information to you as I see it. But don't take my advice. Make your own choices and make them good choices. On with the show.
Welcome to the podcast where we talk about cannabis.
Community violation. Code Green Plant.
And welcome to Code Green Plant, Christy Chanel's solo edition. Still not sure about what the name's gonna be. I do have a couple ideas. I'm thinking Simply Vibin' Choices, Simply Vibin' Wellness. I don't know. I definitely know that I want to put Simply Vibin' because that's my baby. I think as the show evolves, it'll probably be a lot easier to come up with a name. It'll be obvious. The reason I like Simply Vibin' Choices is because that's one of the things I tell my kids. Like whenever Trevor gets out of the car in the morning when I'm dropping him off at like football, I'll say to him, make good choices. I guess that's what I'm trying to talk to you about. Let's make good choices. And the way to make good choices is to do our research. I'm hoping that I can do a lot of that research for you because the way that I see it, this series, I'm kind of finding my way and learning what I feel like is important for me to talk about. And one of those things is listening to your body. I think that that's really, really important. Now, I know with 100% certainty, the best thing for me is water. It's absolutely important. I also know the one thing that I love is soda. So I say make good choices, make wise choices. They're not always going to be perfect. They're not always going to be right. But if the majority of the choices you make are better than they are bad, hey, that's a win for me. That is a total win for me. So yeah, I'm gonna enjoy my soda right here. The small can, I gotta say, it's the small can. I'm a Coca-Cola girl. Man, I should do ads for Coca-Cola. I also know soda can burn or clean the battery acid off of a battery in your car. Like I know this is not a good choice. I'm aware this is not a good choice. So be better than me? Sure. I'm just going to feed you information and you can take it or you can leave it. But the most important thing is to listen to yourself. We're all born with intuition. We kind of know good from bad. You know, I know that I have a really good moral compass. I'm able to figure it out. I don't always make the wise choices, but I tried to instill that in my kids. You know, it's like you kind of know what you're doing when you make that choice. So some of those choices are going to get you in a lot of trouble. Some of those choices are going to get you a lot of victories and a lot of wins in life. So the harder road is always usually has the most victories at the end of it. So I'd like to talk a little bit about what I covered in the last podcast. So I listened to it back. My process is I will record this podcast today. And I kind of have this groove going. I'm a football girl, so I watch football on Sundays. I'll turn on football, I'll get my little headphones on, and I'll start to edit. I will listen to the whole podcast once, and then I'll go in and I'll start chopping it up in areas that I want to take out. And then I upload it and I save it. So I will go and listen to it in the car because that's typically how I listen to my podcasts. Where, I mean, if my kids were to go listen to a podcast, they'd be listening in their AirPods. So I want to sound good and sound soothing and not like blow your eardrums out. But I also want to drive and kind of put myself in the place that I would normally be on the way to work listening to a podcast. So I'll listen to it then and I'll be like, nope, not feeling it. And then I'll take that episode and I'll go home and I'll chop it up again. And I probably do that 3 times. probably. This last one that I just released on Friday, I actually uploaded it, was ready, scheduled it, did everything, listened to it again in my car on the way to work, and hated it. Like, I hated it. I think it's because I got super vulnerable on it, and that made me really, like, uncomfortable and awkward. I'm like, does anybody really care about my timeline or my history? Does anybody really give a crap? I don't know. But so I chopped some things up and out, and, you know, it took me a little bit. And then I got to a place where I'm like, okay, it's just vulnerable enough, but not like overwhelmingly vulnerable where I feel like I need to go hide somewhere and people are going to be like, what a freak, you know? So I felt comfortable enough to release it at that point. I did hear a couple of parts that I still don't really love. And I think one part was where I'm talking about accounting and how I went into construction. I kind of made it sound like I was out there building the house myself, or the apartments or the buildings myself. I was not. I was not out there building the places myself, these buildings. I was in construction accounting. So I just wanted to put some clarity on that for you. I have climbed up on a roof, though. Yeah, a really, really big roof. That roof was AT&T Stadium in Arlington, where the Dallas Cowboys play. Yeah, I climbed to the top and then went out on the roof and tied off, which is like, it's a safety rope, more or less, and took pictures. And yeah, that was like my biggest roof, and that was super fun. But I did not build it. No part of that. So I want to put clarity there. I also wanted to put clarity on the pharmaceuticals. It sounded a little bit to me like I was saying all doctors are in bed with Big Pharma. They are not. And that would be very, very wrong of me to put out there. I don't believe that. I know that's definitely not true. I think there's a few type of doctors when it comes to pharmaceuticals or when it comes to cannabis or psychedelics. I believe that these doctors weren't trained on what cannabis can do or what psychedelics can do. They weren't trained. This is all new. This is all new research. So they're not necessarily going to be able to tell you if this is going to work or it won't work. Because guess what? They don't know. They have no idea. And you know why they don't know? Back to the same subject again, because it's federally illegal and it's a Schedule I drug. When something is a Schedule I drug, that is basically telling everyone in the United States there's no medical value for cannabis. That is why there's not enough research to prove or disprove that. Although, I take that back. There is enough research to prove that we have medical uses for it. I mean, I've told you guys a million already. If you watch any of those episodes, you will hear several reasons. I mean, just take the one for epilepsy. Just the one. It's proven that cannabis helps epilepsy. We all know this. If this is the case, how can cannabis still be a Schedule I drug? It can't. And I'm thinking I'm going to be 99% certain by the end of 2024, it will no longer be a Schedule I. I feel that that's going to happen fairly soon. I'm thinking it's going to be a Schedule III fairly soon. And I am stoked about it because that means more research. So I'm really, really excited about that. But I wanted to clear up the doctor thing that I said. I'm not here to tell you yes or no. That's not my job. My job is to bring the facts to you. And I need to be very thoughtful in that process because I don't want to tell you anything that's not true. So I'm going to tell you the source that I found it from, what it says, and then allow you to make your own decision. You guys already know how I feel about pharmaceuticals. I, of course, am going to be more biased than the next person because it took my mother. 100%. So I may have a biased opinion in the things that I tell you. But I'm conscious enough to know that I need to be fair. And to be fair, I have to share both sides. So that's my plan. I am going to learn about all of this with you. I am not an expert. I don't pretend to be an expert. I'm definitely not a doctor or a therapist. I'm a person just like you. Just like you. I'm looking for answers just like you. So my promise is to give you 100% of the facts with less opinion. God, that's hard for me. You know, that's hard for me. I'm so opinionated. But I will do my absolute best for you. Okay? And if I come back in the next episode and tell you, all right, so maybe that was a little biased. I mean, I'm self-aware. I'm self-aware, but I promise to give it my best to not be biased because I want you to have and make good choices. Oh, simply vibing good choices. Oh my God. Maybe that's it. Simply vibing good choices. Whatever that may be, good choices. I don't know. What do you think? Could you leave me a comment? Tell me if you like Simply Vibing Good Choices. Remember, Simply Vibing's my company, so I kind of want to put it in there. Simply Vibing Good Choices. I don't know. Let's rest on it. Let's think on it. But let me know what you think about that. Okay, so I'm not here to tell you that natural alternatives are better than pharmaceuticals. Some pharmaceuticals will be much better than a holistic approach. A holistic approach may be better than some pharmaceuticals. There may be a situation that you use a combination of both. There is no fast rule here. There is no fast rule. You know why there's no fast rule? Because every body is different, and every body reacts differently to different things. I know this to be 100% true in the cannabis world. Cannabinoids can be adjusted for each person's body. And the more research we get, the more you're going to realize, I already know I want lower THC, a higher CBD, and CBG combination. I also know that I cannot get that if I go to a regular dispensary, because most dispensaries are there to give you a buzz, to get you high. That's what majority of the products are, because that's the big badass cannabinoid, THC. Everybody loves THC. Whenever I mention THC in a post, I get the most likes. I get the most views. I'm here to tell you it's not the only one. I'm here to tell you that if you add other cannabinoids to that THC, it's an even bigger high. And it's good for your body. And that's the stuff I'm going to share with you. I was going to talk about terpenes today, but I'm going to wait. I think I've stumbled across something that I want to talk about more in this moment, today in October. So I'm going to share everything I learn with you, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I promise not to hold back because my opinion may be biased. Yeah, I promise. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to share it. If they say something is wrong with cannabis, I'm going to share it. If they say something is fantastic with this pharmaceutical, I'm going to share it. I promise. I want you to be able to make an informed decision. That's all. And if there's something you want me to research and look up, I'm going to do that for you. So you please let me know if there's something out there that you're curious about. Now, I will tell you, I fall more in the holistic lane, naturally, because I'm all about cannabis. Cannabis, I think, is going to shake up the world when they come out with some of the stuff they're able to find out. I really do. Because we all have an internal endocannabinoid system. Animals have an endocannabinoid system. And the cannabis plant, it creates cannabinoids just like we do. So it just goes together. I think I'm going to make this episode about breast cancer. It's an obvious month to do that in. That actually was not my plan. I wasn't doing the research I was doing today because it's October. And that's complete irony that I came across this. What happened was I saw that Suzanne Summers passed away. Well, my curiosity got the best of me, and I needed to find out what happened, because I know that Suzanne Summers was big on holistic medicine, natural healing, that type of thing. I needed to see what she passed away from, and that's what started my deep dive into this whole thing. It's also breast cancer awareness, and at the end of the episode, I'm going to talk about some charities that you can donate to if you would like to help in the research for breast cancer. All right, so let's start. Suzanne Summers. She is best known as Chrissy Snow in Three's Company. The first thing I stumbled on, and I had heard about this, but when you hear about things in the media, it can be very, very tainted to their own version of what happened. And it's never truly exactly what happened. It's a small, narrow view. Well, I had heard that she was a little difficult in this series, and she was just hard to please, and she was fired because of that. Because of her behavior, she was fired. Come to find out, that's not really how it went down. She was really essentially fighting for the equality, equal pay to her co-star, John Ritter. Now, everyone can say, well, he was the star. He was the funny one. Yeah, he was. But it's not Three's Company without Suzanne Summers. That's one company, one Jack. So for her to make $30,000 an episode, and for John Ritter to make $150,000 an episode, which is an estimate, I don't know for sure that's the total amount, but I do have a quote here which does say $150,000 is what she was asking for, and it was comparable to what John Ritter was making. She went in there and she said, I would like to make $150,000 an episode. And the response to her was, who do you think you are? John is the star of this show. Then they reduced her time, her screen time, and then she was ultimately fired. Well, I don't think that she asked too much. I think if anything, John Ritter was the star. I mean, that's completely obvious, but he wasn't 150,000 versus 30,000. Like, Suzanne Summers was a huge part of that whole thing. So to me, she was a pioneer, and she didn't even try to be. She just thought she was asking for something that was right in her world. And, I guess I would call her a pioneer. And I'm very supportive that she went in there, because I'll tell you what, it is so hard to ask for a raise. It is really hard, because the first thing that happens is self-doubt. Do I deserve this? How can I go in there and ask for this? I was 5 minutes late 3 months ago. I don't deserve this raise. You start talking yourself out of it. And it takes courage to walk in there and say, I've done my research. I know that I'm worth this. And here's the reason why. This is why I deserve this raise. Because rejection is a big thing. Actually, I have a story, because I go on tangents. I don't just start and go in a straight line. I'm all zigzag all over the place. So here's my story. I did my research, and I thought I should get a raise. I start, building myself up. I'm like, I can do this. Okay, nobody's going to stand up for me more than me. I have to do this. Nobody can do this for me. Hyping myself up. I send an email to my supervisor at the time, and I let them know I'd like a raise, and here's why. And he says, okay, yeah, absolutely, let's talk about it. Let's set an appointment and we can discuss it. Well, I set an appointment with my supervisor at the time, the president and the CFO. I'm nervous as shit. We go in there and I sit down, and it's like I'm on freaking trial. Like, they start pulling out everything, not my supervisor, but the president and CFO. Well, why do you think you deserve this exactly? You've done this wrong, you've done that. And they start like going through things, which it's blowing my mind. I'm like, nobody's told me that before, and I've been getting good reviews. All of a sudden, I'm messing all of this up. I don't understand. Well, it felt like torture. Like torture. I left there, and I felt like I wasn't worth anything. Nothing. I actually left in tears. Like, I can't even believe I would ask for a raise. Like, I don't deserve a raise. It was such a humiliating thing that happened to me. I'll never forget it for the rest of my life because it was traumatic. I ended up getting an email later, and the email said, sorry, we just needed to let you know that not everybody gets raises, and so, these are the reasons why we didn't think you should, but you are going to get one. You are getting your raise. I'm like, why did you have to put me through all that? Like that, you know what it made me do? It made me question ever walking in there and asking for a raise again. I never wanted to go through that again. It didn't stop me though. I ended up leaving the company. So there's that. And would I go today and ask for a raise? Hell yeah, I would. Hell yeah, I would. No, that won't deter me, and it shouldn't deter you. And I want you guys to make good choices and get what you freaking deserve. If you deserve a raise, you need to sit down. You need to write everything down that you've accomplished within the last year, showing all the facts. Supervisors don't really like to hear your opinions. Not when it comes to money. Not when it comes to a raise. You need to go in there and have your facts ready to go. Because they can't say anything to facts. You're not speaking like, I think I'm worth it. I think I deserve it. This is why I deserve it, because I did bam, 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 and I made you a profit of bam, bam, bam. I saved you money on bam, bam, bam. Period. That's how you get a raise. That's how you get a raise. Go try it and then let me know how it works out. I promise you, they won't be able to refute it. Yeah, but don't just feel like you need a raise. Don't just, you know what, it's time. No, you better prove it. Prove it. Okay? All right. Now that we got that out of the way. So that's what Suzanne Summers did. In 2000, Suzanne Summers was diagnosed with cancer. She would be dealing with cancer for about 23 years. Obviously, we know Suzanne Summers was a strong, kick-ass woman. And she's not about to hear that she's got cancer and be like, okay, well, I guess that's it. No, she's like, okay, bet, I got this. And she battled it for 23 hard years. It also proves that mindset is really, really everything. Mindset is everything, because my grandfather was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and he lived with that for 10 years. And he was out there. He had a ranch, and he was out there, and he was tending to the horses, and he was, mowing the acreage and, doing his thing, man. And it didn't come to his mind. I got a job to do. This is my life. I got to make sure everything's taken care of. And he lived with cancer for 10 years when he didn't get a good prognosis. He did not hear, you're going to live 10 years. I think he heard a year, something to that time frame. And he kicked its ass. And Suzanne Summers, she kicked its ass. So I have complete respect, but I do know that mindset is really the dictator of what your future is going to be. 100%. Don't lay down. You got to get up and you got to freaking fight. You got to fight. You got to fight. You got to fight. And that's what I learned by seeing this story. Suzanne Summers was an absolute warrior. Absolute warrior. She was determined to beat it. So I'm going to pull up an article from the University of Colorado Cancer Center, the School of Medicine. I figured I would read through a few things with you that I saw in this article. This is where I share some facts with you. And let's see what we learn here. What had you heard about Suzanne Summers' breast cancer experience prior to her death on October 15th? Let me tell you who's reading the answers. Okay, Gretchen, Ahrendt, because you already know I'm not good with the weird word pronunciations, and I'm definitely not going to try that last name. Ahrendt, Anyway, it'll be on the YouTube version up on the screen, but it's AHRENDT. We'll call her Gretchen the MD. Talks about treatment and the management of breast cancer. And so she is the one that will be answering the questions regarding Suzanne Summers. Okay, so this MD, Gretchen, she doesn't know Suzanne personally from what I can tell, but she's talking about the average human like you and I fighting breast cancer. Okay, so what had you heard about Suzanne Summers' breast cancer experience prior to her death on October 15th? She says, I was only aware that she was diagnosed with breast cancer because she created some controversy when she wrote a book about walking away from conventional treatment and choosing alternative and complementary treatments. Is there any benefit to the healthy lifestyle that Summers talks about? We do talk to patients about what we know about what lifestyle modifications can help reduce risk of cancer or risk of reoccurrence, but I always tell my patients there is no diet or specific lifestyle that prevents all cancers or treats a cancer. Even people who exercise regularly, never smoke, and try to eat the most healthy organic food possible can still get cancer. Healthy eating and healthy living are important, but they aren't a substitute for tests, therapies that have undergone randomized trials and peer review. Okay, so she is absolutely for pharmaceuticals. Okay, we're kind of picking up her vibe. Summers' experience with breast cancer lasted more than 20 years. Is that fairly common or is that unusual? Okay, so I like this question because when I went to look this up, I knew that she didn't like traditional medicine. Okay, so I wanted to go see if they were right. That's virtually what caused me to go look. Were they right, or was Suzanne Summers right? So I came to find out she died at 76. She was diagnosed in 2000. That tells me she lived 23 years with cancer. Okay, so this question is a really good one because that's what I was looking for. Was she right or were they right? It depends on the type of breast cancer someone has, but some breast cancers are known to have a risk of late reoccurrence. Her story is not out of the ordinary. Women we think we've treated for cures can develop reoccurrences 10 or more years later. That's what's really scary about breast cancer. Some types of breast cancer are more likely to reoccur early, but some types can reoccur very far after that. Yeah, that didn't answer my question. So let's keep digging. Okay, here, this might be closer. Summers died at age 76. Is that considered young or old to die of cancer? You know, I don't even know. Yeah, I think that's not going to answer it either. Anyway, they put, there is no standard. The fact that she dealt with breast cancer for 23 years is a clinical course we see in our daily practices. There are many women who are living with breast cancer who have a very high quality of life because our therapies are getting more targeted and less toxic. Some patients with breast cancer continue to work and spend quality time with their family. All right, I'm not hearing what I thought I would hear from this article. Everybody knows that she argued against chemotherapy. There are arguments in favor of chemotherapy. There are arguments against it. It truly only comes down to your opinion and your choice. You need to do what fits for you and your lifestyle and your family and with your body. Choose what works for you. The holistic approach worked for Suzanne Summers. It worked for her. She had no regrets at the end of her life. There are many articles out there that say she had no regrets. Family were trying to convince her. I know it's come back, please go get chemotherapy, please get chemotherapy. And she said, no, I don't want to. And her family respected that. And she said, I lived a long life. I'm good. And I think she did. She's a warrior and she had a lot of struggles, but she did it her way. Can't argue with that. If your choice is to not get chemotherapy, then don't. If your choice is to get chemotherapy, then do. It's very simple. So now, I've told you that side of things. I am going to now talk about medical cannabis. You knew I was going to have the flip side. I can't just give you one side and not give you the other. So this article is really perfectly titled Medical Cannabis. Cannabis refers to a family of plants from which marijuana and hemp are produced. These plants are grown around the world and have been used in herbal remedies for centuries. This is written by Adam, I know I can't say the last name, Leitenberger, and reviewed by 3 medical advisors. There's no name for them. They are just advising people. This article can be found on breastcancer.org. Okay, here we go. Most people diagnosed with cancer report that cannabis products are effective for managing their symptoms and treatment side effects. So basically, this article is showing that the side effects that you have for treatment, it looks like they are saying it goes alongside of traditional treatments. There is some research supporting the use of medical cannabis for managing certain conditions, but federal laws in the United States make it difficult to study medical cannabis. It's important to know that cannabis is not a cure or treatment for cancer itself. Even though there are many such claims online, you should not use medical cannabis instead of proven cancer treatments. They're definitely right. There are a lot of articles out there saying that it does reduce cancer cells. It does kill cancer cells. You know I'm going to have to find one of those next, right? Cannabis plants contain many chemicals known as cannabinoids. Cannabinoids cause certain effects when you consume them. They do this by interacting with your body's endocannabinoid system, which actually produces its own cannabinoids called endocannabinoids. Scientists are still working to understand how the endocannabinoid system works, but it seems to play a role in many processes in your body. We just talked about that. We're educated, aren't we? We already know this. The research done on cannabis so far suggests that most of its medical benefits are related to the effects of 2 main cannabinoids: THC, which causes the high associated with marijuana, and CBD, which does not cause a high. CBD and THC seem to offer different medical benefits. A good example of these benefits can be seen when comparing the only cannabinoid medicines approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA. THC medicines are approved to treat nausea caused by chemotherapy. The CBD medicine, Epidiolex, is approved to treat seizure disorders in children. Different forms of cannabis contain different amounts or combinations of cannabinoids, which is what we were just talking about. We're just talking about different dosage, move it around, different bodies. Marijuana contains enough THC to cause a high, more than 0.3%, because the legal percentage is 0.3% for non-recreational states, so hemp, basically, and varying amounts of CBD. Hemp contains mostly CBD and only trace amounts of THC, which does not cause a high. Cannabis products made from extracted oils can contain all or mostly THC or CBD or different combinations. Whole plant marijuana products are often grouped by strains to describe their balance of THC and CBD. Whole plants or full spectrum. Okay, so if you go out there to a CBD store and you see full spectrum, that's what you want. That is what you want. Don't be scared because you see THC. You're not going to get high. You want full spectrum. You have to have the entourage effect. Often contain other cannabinoids. Okay, wait, let me read that line because I interrupted as usual. Whole plant or full spectrum products often contain other cannabinoids that can cause other effects. The effects of cannabinoids also depend varying on how they are consumed. Most common ways to consume medical cannabis are eating edibles, my favorites, or taking capsules I did that during COVID. I took the capsules, worked like a dream, no stress. Oils or tinctures by mouth. I do like the tinctures too, I'm not gonna lie. I do like those. Which can take 1 to a few hours to take effect and can last for up to 6 hours. Inhaling cannabis smoke or vapor, which can take effect within minutes and fades over a few hours. Okay? What condition is medical cannabis used for? It's extremely important to know that cannabis is not a cure. We already talked about this. You don't need to tell me that. I'm skipping that paragraph. The most common reason people with breast cancer use cannabis are to manage pain, including joint, muscle, and discomfort and stiffness, anxiety and stress, insomnia, nausea, vomiting, and loss of appetite caused by chemotherapy. Here's a quote. I've mainly seen it used in conjunction with prescription drugs to control pain and other side effects in patients living with this disease. It's rare that the person living with breast cancer would have only one side effect to manage, so by adding a medical marijuana, it often allows me to cut back on the number of drugs I prescribe. Okay, this is a doctor. With a high quality source for medical marijuana and knowing how it affects an individual, using medical marijuana can put more control back in the hands of my patient. 100% agree with this. I guess everybody can agree that the symptoms that it's treating is not just breast cancer. These are symptoms that can be a side effect to a lot of different diseases, a lot of different problems. Hunger. Everybody knows that when you smoke a joint, smoke a blunt, take an edible, you're hungry. One side effect of having cancer is not being able to eat and hold anything down. This is a really, really good thing for that too. But here, these two articles are not saying anything about actual cancer and curing or fighting the cancer disease. So for now, we're going to stop here and I'm going to see what I can find when it comes to actually fighting it, killing the cancer cells, because I do my research every day. And I see an article every day about this. It's very sciencey though, and so to bring it to you, it would be very sciencey and a lot of big words that I can't pronounce. So the struggle is there. I'm going to see if I can find something that I can break down and make it make sense to me as well. We have pretty much covered everything in my article. Except the most important part. Hold up. I went online to find the top rated breast cancer charities because if you're going to donate, I want you to know that it's going to a place that is going to actually use it for cancer and not somebody's pocket. Dozens of breast cancer charities do exist, but only some will use your donation efficiently to fund the programs most important to you. Charity Watch recommends using our top list of breast cancer charities to identify efficient organizations. Some charities may primarily conduct activities to raise breast cancer awareness, while others might provide direct grants and other support to patients suffering from the disease. Breast Cancer Research Foundation works to prevent and cure breast cancer by advancing the world's most promising research. Then it shows National Breast Cancer Coalition Fund, NBCC. National Breast Cancer Coalition Fund works to end breast cancer through the power of action and advocacy. Those are really two good sites, and I will put them in the bio below on the podcast streaming apps, and I will put it in the YouTube notes below in the bio as well. So if you'd like to donate to breast cancer, please use the links below. That about wraps it up, you guys. I think this was a power-packed podcast. I don't know. I may go home and realize this sucks. And you know me, I might just take it down completely and be like, you know what? I decided not to do an episode this week. Or maybe I'll just put it out there, close my eyes, and turn around and not look back again. I don't know. But thank you for being here. And tell me if you like Simply Vibin' Good Choices with Christy Chanel. I'll be back next Wednesday with my co-host Phoebe, and again next Friday on my solo series that I can't name. Please hit the like button Hit the subscribe button or the bell that reminds you that we're here. What else? Follow us. I'm going to highlight a different social media spot each week. That way I'm not overwhelming with all the crap. Okay, I know. It's like, shh, we're done, Christy. You can leave now. Follow me on TikTok at Christy Chanel. I mean, I'm all over the place there. There's no like one lane there. I'm like all over the place. Follow me on Code Green Plant on TikTok. And then you can find me on Simply Vibin' LLC on TikTok, which is really where a lot of my action is. That's where I promote the most. So I will put the links below. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you very, very much. Thank you. Bye now.
This episode of Code Green Plant was sponsored by Simply Vibin' LLC. Code Green Plant is a Simply Vibin' production hosted by Christy Chanel, with music produced and mixed by Timothy McGee. This podcast is not intended to be used for medical advice and is solely the opinion of the host. Please consult your physician. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and don't forget to follow us on social media. Want more? Visit www.simplyvibin.com. We appreciate you simply vibing with us.
Code Green Plant.